Hi, Anti's Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out Scream by Dreamcatcher, and I'm so excited. Okay, we are getting into the era of all of the songs that people have been telling me about since I first started to make videos about Dreamcatcher, and Scream is one of them. I remember hearing a clip of the song. I don't know if it was in the guide or just going about my life and the algorithms figuring out that I like Dreamcatcher, that I ended up hearing some clip of it, but I was like, I heard it and I was like, I want to hear that song. It's like this in Boca that I'm so excited to finally get to listen to as the upcoming albums come. And there's like all these other B-side tracks that I'm super excited for from this era. We also have a new storyline that is coming up, which is also super exciting. I'm vibrating a little bit getting into this reaction, but I also know that we're getting into the era where Handong is not going to be there. And when I pulled up the lyric video for this, not seeing her picture there in the front and center where she belongs broke my heart a little bit. So I want you guys to tell me about your favorite Handong content, whether that is covers or vlogs behind the scenes or compilations, whatever it is. I know I've done some of her covers and other things for like birthday celebrations. Some of it I know about, but let me know what those are down in the comments, because I want to intersperse that with going through these songs and albums, because they're 7 and I want them to stay 7, even though I know everything's good now and she's back. But I want to try and keep her in the loop as we go through these videos coming up where she's not going to be in like the main tracks and albums that I'm going through. I'm also just gonna miss her. So let me know your suggestions of what you want to see, because I can't go that many videos without Handong, honestly. Like, she's been in every video pretty much, I think, that I've watched so far with Dreamcatcher, and I still just miss her on a regular basis. I don't know what that means about me. I don't know why Handong specifically, but I miss her personality so much. So let me know those down in the comments. And with that being said, we're gonna get into this. We're going to check out the lyric video first so I can hear the song, and I'm so excited, and we can pull it apart and analyze it. And then I will watch the MV, because I'm ready for a new storyline and I'm gonna be trying to pull apart visuals and stuff, so it's just easier if we separate it out. But let's hear this song. Legitimately need to tell myself to calm down. I'm too excited. Okay, let's do this. They look fantastic. These lace tops or whatever that's going on, gorgeous. Okay. Uh-oh. No. Okay, we start off with like this eerie, almost key sound, and then we went immediately into deal with those beautiful light vocals, and then Yuhyun coming in there. What are we doing? Look, I'm still recovering from Rate of Dream, honestly. I'm still not over it. I'm still processing. So I'm just fragile. I need them to be kind with me. Some intense production. Gorgeous. Okay, hold on. That beat that's going, like, I was saying before, like, there's this really intense production that's happening here. There's lots of layers, but they're all hitting at like the same time, as opposed to a lot of the other songs I've heard so far where there's lots of production pieces and they have this theatrical orchestral sound. All the sounds are woven into a whole sound together, as opposed to having everything kind of hitting in the same way, which has this almost marching feeling to it. And then having that mixed with this more staccato delivery, and then with Sua's part, she did this beautiful vocal melody where she lightened up her voice and it was a bit quicker pace in her delivery. She on there too, with the certain tone that she was putting in her voice. There's just this darkness and this little bit of grit in it. This is gonna hurt me, isn't it? I'm already worried because we're building up all these elements and there's just this strong, assertive, marching feeling to the production that when the drop comes, am I gonna be okay? I know you can't respond to me right now, but that's my question right now. It's just like, am I gonna make it? I don't know. Ugh, her voice. We also have the vocals in the back. Yeah, those vocals in the back. Also the throwing stones. Sorry, before we move on, the Throwing Stones it's one of their newer songs, right? Shatter, where they have all the imagery of throwing stones. I know this is coming before chronologically, but was that a reference to this, or is that just a image that they're pulling forward? Because I think it's interesting. I think that there's multiple there. Anyway. I love that speed up of cadence. No, I wasn't ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this drop. They're changing up these melodies. I'm not paying attention to the lyrics as probably as much as I should have, but even the line where it's who is this for, because it feels like they're talking about, Gahyun had the line about being like tied up to the point where your hands are numb, so it's something that's been happening for a long time. They're talking about pain, throwing stones. There's all of these feelings of being restrained or being judged or being punished in some way, which makes me feel like they're talking about maybe being told to fit into their mold, right? Being told to know their place, to stick to it, and then thinking of Scream. There are a couple of different ways that I could think of that. I could think of that as them breaking, because I think that there is a lot of pressure on women specifically, especially in different fields where they are in a spotlight, especially with idol culture, to be a very composed person, right? They have to fit a very specific kind of personality, and that involves being composed and respectful and in control of yourself constantly. And I can think of Scream being them taking a moment to release all of this built up tension of them needing to conform to a specific image or being pressured to do that. It doesn't mean necessarily that they want to be treated that way or that they necessarily go along with it. It could just be that because Dreamcatcher does step outside of a lot of the normal sound for K-pop in general, at least when they were starting out. I feel like K-pop has branched out a little bit more in more recent groups, that I'm hearing a little bit more experimentation with different sounds and with rock being integrated into some more modern groups and comebacks. But definitely they were breaking the mold with what they were doing, and they definitely were doing things that were outside of what people were expecting or comfortable with in the industry. And I can see people telling them to stop doing that, and that they should go and do what everyone else is doing, and that they should conform, and that they need to be a specific kind of person. And the fact that they weren't fitting into that could definitely make people not be great to them. And whether that is the public or people within the industry, I know from some of the stuff that they talked about in other songs that they were definitely told to stop what they were doing or to know their place, or it's not going to work. What you're trying isn't going to be successful. And so I can see Scream as being like that kind of breaking out of those expectations or being forced into that kind of specific way of portraying yourself publicly or through your art, or just to be like even noticed, even to have people give you the time of day. You need to conform to certain ways within the industry. But I could also think of it as Scream with the more like horror elements that they tend to bring into it. And I know we're going into a new storyline, but I'm never going to give up the nightmare story. I was talking about this in my comments. I'm like, I'm not ready to let it go. Just personally, I'm not ready. But I could see it that way too, of the Scream being forced on someone else, of I'm going to be something so absurd and outside of the box. And like a part of what makes people interested in horror is that it personifies these different parts of human nature into an actual physical thing that is an adversary. And a lot of the creatures or monsters or villains, antagonists in horror stories are there to be these personifications of things that scare us about being humans and what humans are capable of, and having an interest in the macabre. And they definitely talked about that in the nightmare story, of being drawn into something that is scary or terrifying or off kilter, something that you know you shouldn't be interested in, that kind of draws you in because there is that feeling of watching a train crash. Knowing a train crash is happening and not being able to look away. It's a similar thing of, you know that you shouldn't be interested in certain things that are terrifying, and yet at the same time you can't help but watch. And I could see that being part of this too, of them saying, we are going to do something that breaks expectations and is going to make you uncomfortable, and it's also going to force you to watch. It's going to be something that is so tapping into something instinctual that we're going to make you pay attention to us, even against your better judgment. Maybe, but also that drop of like the actual scream in there. I'm not ready for this actual drop. I'm just not. Also, their vocals are vocaling. I might be rambling a little bit because I'm a little bit too excited, and also I'm procrastinating because I'm a little bit scared. They actually screamed at me, and I'm just like, I'm not ready. Who did the scream? I would say Xian, but I don't know if I'm right. I'd have to listen to it again. Maybe it's multiple of them. Or maybe, for some reason, I feel like Dami might be a good screamer. I feel like it's not in her nature. I feel like she's not easily scared, and I feel like she's not the kind of person who would scream from something actually startling her, but I feel like she has the pipes for it. I feel like she could do a good scream like if she wanted to. Okay. I'm not ready. No. I knew I wasn't ready. Okay, the choreo for this? The choreo is gonna be insane, isn't it? Because there's no way you have a beat like that with minimal vocal strain, right? They're not gonna have to be doing a whole lot with their singing, which means that they can do some crazy things in the choreo and they don't have to worry about being stable in their vocals, which scares me for what the choreo is gonna be like. But that drop with the actual scream sound in the back is crazy. That very aggressive pounding beat to the whole thing is just very fascinating to me. And if I'm gonna connect it to what I'm thinking with the meaning of the song, especially with them saying, please, I don't want to scream, I feel like that goes into what I was saying before of a scream almost being like a release of all this pent up feelings about people having their own opinions or judgments. And I think it could also be, please don't make me scream to be heard. Please don't make me have to scream just to be over all of these voices that have all of these opinions and all of these judgments about what I'm doing. Don't make me do that. Please just listen to what I'm saying instead of making me force my way into the conversation. So I think that could be a way of playing off of it too. But having this repetitive but like staccato pounding beat of like all of these production elements hitting at the very same time in this very heavy way, it feels like them being hit over and over again because it has this weight behind the way that the production is hitting. I feel like that fits really well with it too. And again, it could be played both ways. It could be like them being hit and it could also be like them hitting back. Interesting to have these two potential meanings for that. I'll have to wait and see how this goes. But someone said A at me before they were starting the verse. I think it was Gayan. If we get rapper Gayan on this, I'm gonna need a break. I'm gonna need a break because whenever we get into the second verse, I'm ready for Dami. I'm like, I brace myself. But if we're going to get rapper Gayan, I'm not gonna be okay. That's all I can say about that one. We have to listen to that chorus again though. That layering of the voice again. We've had that with Dami before. I love the like this part. The wind up with this like choir. I need a break. It's not fair. No, it's not fair. I have a thing for rappers, okay? If you're new here and you don't know that, I think every single one of my biases in every group is a rapper. And I have multiple biases per group because I'm indecisive like that. Okay, one of them is technically a dancer. When I get to multiple biases, I occasionally dabble in people who aren't rappers. But the vast majority of my biases are rappers. And Gahyun, she's a cute pie. Super talented, crazy charisma on stage. She does this thing where she like deepens her voice and she darkens her tone, just like singing. And then she became a rapper. And I just want to know why she's out for my mental health. Just personally. And there's some bars in this too. There's some lines in this where I'm like, that's really good, but I can't pay attention properly because Gahyun is rapping at me. And then we're gonna have Dami. And I just feel like that is not fair to me. I just need to make it through. I just need to make it through the song. this line where it's like, the growing hatred gives birth to random targets. I love that line because it's true. A lot of the time when people are spreading hateful things, whether it's comments or ideologies or opinions, usually it's not about whoever they're pointing them at. It's because there's some anger or discontent within themselves, usually about themselves, that they are projecting outwards. I definitely had that where people have left not great comments on my videos, and I know that it doesn't have anything to do with me. I read these comments and I'm like, you have no idea who I am, and also I've done nothing in my video to warrant you being this upset. I've had people be upset with me about the strangest things, and I'm like, this has nothing to do with me and everything to do with you and you needing to deal with something. Saying random targets is true. People are just looking for some external place to put that anger and frustration and discontent, and it's because they're not putting in the work or the time to figure out why the problem is them. And it takes work. I say that as somebody who, I've had problems with anger. I was an extremely angry person for a good chunk of my life, and it was not a good place to be, and I don't like the way that it feels, and I understand that one of my ways of coping with things that make me uncomfortable or that I'm like overwhelmed me, I'm not able to process in the moment, my default as a defense is anger. But because I know that about myself and I've taken the time to understand that and work on that, I rarely get angry. I think that most people who interact with me have never seen me angry, and that's because I've taken the time to know that about myself, because it didn't feel good and I didn't like it and it was doing awful things to me. And I think that is a step that people are missing in the equation. It's so easy now with social media to vent your anger at whoever happens to pop up on your timeline first and not even think about the consequences. Like, that isn't a person that you're interacting with anymore. That's just a username and a profile picture, and you don't even think about the fact that there's an actual human being with feelings and a whole personality behind all of that you are actually affecting, because you're just thinking about like, how do I make myself feel better temporarily in this moment? It's such a good line. I think it just encapsulates what they're trying to get with this, of them talking about throwing stones and being restrained and people causing them pain, or they were talking about needing to walk through the burning path or whatever, which I think is interesting given some of the imagery that they had in the previous album with Rate of Dream, where they had some fire imagery of turning into flames and stuff like that. So interesting to see them walking a burning path. It's blazing forward, but there is also that danger of, can you not get burned, or can you take the heat of deciding to take that path? Comparing this to people choosing them to vent their anger because it seems easier for them. They seem like an easier target because they're different. They're doing something different and they're doing it in the public eye. And I think that people stop seeing them as people. Someone on the internet seeing their music or their faces or a clip of them, not seeing them as people. I think that happens a lot with idols, that people think, oh, they're idols, they're rich, they're famous, they're successful. I should be able to criticize them about stuff that they're doing in the public eye. I should be able to do that because they're doing it publicly and they have all these other things. So it shouldn't matter to them, or they should get over it. They're not allowed to have their feelings hurt or to struggle with mental health or physical health or with doing their job. They shouldn't be able to do that because look at all the things that they've done. It's strange to me. I think it's so strange that we could have these such strong parasocial relationships and idols share so much with us, and yet at the same time people just refuse to see them as actual human beings. And it's a strange hypocrisy, which I think is something that Dami brings up. It's just this weird feeling of, how can you demand so much transparency and so much of a personal touch from these idols, and yet at the same time, the moment that you want to say something critical or hateful or awful about them, they're not actually people. That's always the excuse. Oh, they're idols, they should get over it, they should be able to deal with it. Like, it's so odd to me. That A before it. See, hypocrisy says it's my fault. Exactly. There's so many things with famous people or idols, and specifically where they're like, you're a public figure and you're doing things publicly, you're supposed to be perfect. So if I say something negative about you or awful about you, that's just part of the job, right? That's always what people say. They're like, oh, well, they're an idol, they should know that they're going to get hateful comments or had awful things said about them. That doesn't give you permission. It's so wild to me. I even have it with, there are people who are out in the public eye who have not done great things. There are definitely some people that are not great people and should not have a platform. And people think that, oh, because this person has done something awful, I'm allowed to be awful to them. And I'm like, no, that just means that you are also an awful person. That just means you are also hateful. And now we have more hateful people. You're not a good person because you're only awful to a specific kind of person. You're just awful, but sneaky about it. You're trying to make people believe that you're a good person at the same time. And it's so strange to me that it's even like the burning thirst. I don't know, I can think of it like two different ways. I can think of it as them wanting to be idols and being ambitious about that, but I can also think of it as sometimes people want to say awful things about important people because they're okay with being important by association, right? Some people want to just say awful things about idols because they want their 5 seconds of fame, and they think that the best way to do that is to just say something controversial and just say something that's like rage baiting just to be important for a split second, right? So it's thirst again, right? Thirst for attention and recognition, and even from the idols themselves. Sometimes people say awful things about idols because they just want the idol to acknowledge them, and they can be like, look, this person acknowledged me, which means that I'm important. No, it doesn't. I would be so mortified at the way that idols sometimes look at people who do these awful or weird or crazy things around them, and the looks that these idols give them. I'm embarrassed just by proxy. I'm embarrassed for that person because I'm like, how can you do something like that or say something like that and have an idol look at you like that or respond to you like that and think you've done something interesting or important? How? Honestly, it's a little bit scary, like the delusion there. I know I'm pausing and reminding a lot. I'm sorry. I'm just a little too excited. Ooh, regret. That's a good one. Ooh, I like, but the breath won't stop. Nice. Like, even though you're trying to beat me down or dig into scars, saying going after an old wound, going after the same things, but you go after the same things because you know that it's going to hit deep. You know that it's going to get to the core of what that person is scared of or insecure about. But even though you're doing all these things intentionally, they're still breathing. They're still going. They're still continuing. You can't stop that part of them. They're going to continue to make things. And I think that's part of what kind of gets me with the production too. It has this aggression to it. And I think that part of that is to symbolize the aggression towards Dreamcatcher. But I also think it's aggression back. It sounds like a marching. It sounds like this feeling of continuing forward and fighting back and refusing to stop, regardless of what other people's opinions may be. There's just something very powerful and uplifting about this song in a very different way from some of the other songs, at least chronologically, that have been a little bit more about persevering or dealing with hateful things. There's something epic in the scale of this one. I love the layered haunting vocals in the back. It's just so good. Scream before the drop is so good. Gaihan-ness. Okay, I love the way we slow it down, but we also have this drip sound, which I think is interesting given the fire imagery that we've had up to this point, to then have water in contrast, but also mellowing out the production into the vocals of almost like this cooling down of like putting out their own anger is what it feels like. But I'm saying like after everyone's left, I'm opening my eyes, like this feeling of, I don't know, when you almost like close your eyes and take a breath because you're trying to ground yourself and get control of your feelings and not let it get under your skin. So it almost feels like water in contrast to those feelings of burning. And I see that as anger or frustration, but also a ambition and needing to prove people wrong, and having the water in contrast to be like, let me take a moment to actually figure out, okay, what do I actually want? Is it worth letting these people get under my skin and me changing my trajectory just to prove them wrong? Doing something out of spite instead of doing something because it is a creative outlet that is important to me. Does that make sense? I hope so. I feel like I'm talking so much during this, but I feel like there's so many things to pull apart with the song that and we haven't even got to the MV, where I'm sure there's also gonna be lots of stuff. Love the vocal slide. No. Okay, no, we changed up the lyrics. I love the everyone going crazy. And then the I want to make you scream, because it was please don't make me scream. Like I was saying before about that, the contrast between, is it them wanting to scream and having to contain themselves and having screaming almost be like an outlet for those emotions or to be heard or to rise above all the commentary, and then switching that into I want to make you scream again, leaning again into those horror elements of I'm going to make you, 1, uncomfortable, 2, go against your expectations, and 3, maybe make you a fan, right? Maybe make you pay attention, because it's going to be something that you can't look away from. With horror and scary movies and things, we know that we're doing it intentionally because it scares us, but there is a certain allure to that and a certain adrenaline to being part of that moment. And also, when you're a fan of something, you're at a concert, you scream as well, right? You scream along to show that you're enjoying the performance and to add energy to the environment of being at a concert. So I feel like it has that vibe too of I'm going to make you pay attention to me. You're going to be mesmerized and you won't quite understand why, but I'm going to make you pay attention. You're going to remember me. And I love that, the triumph of that. It's just like, it's so good. I just wanna make you scream. The production goes crazy. See, everyone looks at me and scream. Ooh, I love that we stopped, like we ended with Dio as well. And I also love that it softened out there. Like she softened up her vocals. We had the production go out. We had a little bit of reverb on her vocal too, because I feel like part of that is it almost feels like filling up a space that no longer has anything to say. It feels like if you're in a crowd of people who are constantly saying things and bombarding you with opinions and criticisms, and then at the end, everyone is shocked into silence or they don't really know what to do in that moment. And then also, I feel like it's this control again, like her softening out her voice a bit and her being the leader of the group as well, of her again gaining that composure of I'm in control and you can't make me feel a certain way or do a certain thing or change who I am or the trajectory of my career. You don't have that power over me. That's what it feels like to me. Ooh, okay, this song, I feel like there are so many other things that I could have picked apart, lyric wise, story wise, symbolism, the vocals that were going on, the production. I feel like there was so much. I feel like I talked a lot anyway, and there were still things that I have thoughts about, but we have to get to the MV because I think it's going to be epic. I want to see some choreo. I want to know what the story is. What are we doing with storyline in this? Because I know some of it because I've seen later albums. I wasn't really paying attention all that much to the storytelling other than it as we get into some like apocalyptic stuff, but I'm excited. Let's get into the MV. Yo, I just looked at my recording time. I'm sorry that this is going to be a long video. I'm sorry to my future self who has to edit it. I'm sorry, we're only now at the MV. It's gonna be one of those videos, especially since we're opening up with a quote that says people forgot how to say good things. I figured I picked up on that one. Also, we have a tree. Isn't part of the storyline coming up environmental? I feel like I remember someone saying something about it being related to environment or climate change or something like that, which is part of the apocalypse imagery that happens later. I'm gonna fully pull it apart as we go through it properly. This is gonna be a long video. Should have told you to get some snacks, but let's get into this MV because I got a good feeling. Oof. I mean, they did always like the dark. The purple hair, though. Gorgeous. Oh, okay. We have some powers of some kind. I remember this vaguely, I think. Bon Voyage? Did they have? I'm trying to remember now. Vision? Some of them I've seen. I wasn't entirely paying attention to all of the details because I knew that I was gonna loop back. Love this contrast between these images of high saturation and then the black and white. Love that we have Jio and Ihan that were in this almost dead grass wasteland and then this kind of above nowhere space with Sula. Interesting so far. I love like the flowers on her shirt in contrast to the dead plants. Oh, why is the white figure gone? Ooh, okay, interesting with a couple of things here. Is the masked person who's dancing with them, is the mask because it's a stand-in for Handong? They saved a space? Because heart. Also, lots of things happening image-wise. I know that because this is an introduction into the story, I'm gonna have more questions than answers, and I get that. The desert, though, the sand also makes me think of Nightmare, and I know that we're leaving it behind, but that was like a symbol of kind of desolation and almost a point of no return, which feels like almost we have these pillars, which I feel like might have been where Sua was standing before. They seem like almost like Greek pillars, which makes me think of ancient civilization or ancient knowledge, perhaps. We had the two figures in front of the tree and one of them disappeared. The one that was like the white, the lighter colors, which white is usually seen as purity, innocence, good, and that kind of disappearing from the situation. And then we have the darker clad figure that is persevering. The pinky light that's coming out of the tree, it was also similar to what we had with Xian, which I find interesting. Also, tree of life, that is what makes me think of is that symbolism, but also tree, what is it called in Norse mythology where it connects different worlds? But that as well, connecting worlds, connecting the flow between worlds, especially with, it seems like there's this portal at the base of it. I'm just throwing out all of my ideas because I want to just show what's going through my head, but then also I don't know which ones are going to be applicable as we progress. So I'm just going to say everything that pops into my head. Ooh, the way we slowed down the choreo. Ooh, that choreo there, wasn't that something that they referenced in some other choreo later on? And people were like, oh, that's a reference to something else. I love how it was like sped up and then it slowed down. It's very controlled. Even the formations, because they have more dancers involved. I feel like I recognize some of them. Maybe I'm just being delusional, but I feel like I do. I'm thinking specifically with the solo stuff that they did later on, like No Dot and stuff. Anyway, because we have extra people, it feels almost like a marching formation, maybe. We also have the smoke. Antagonist of some kind. Ooh. Ooh, I like that image with the parasol. It's interesting. We have the mask imagery. We have actually the mask there, but then we also had the choreo where they were covering half of their face. We have some masks talked about later in the lyrics, but I feel like this is almost half of the face is covered. So it's two-facedness, maybe. Also the different almost wormholes that are happening. I feel like I might be onto something with the Norse connection, with the tree being the way that all of these different worlds or dimensions are connected together, maybe. Also, I feel like the purpley magenta is connected to Xian specifically, because we went into her eye and then it connected to the wormhole that was that color, and then we had another one that was gray, and that might just be because we're playing with grayscale in this, but it might also be to separate them. I don't know. We have a lot of fog too. No. Okay, we have the masks again. So we're definitely doing mask imagery. That part is more difficult when I have to see Gahyun perform it. She's too charismatic, okay? She's always been too charismatic. And you should have just slightly less stage presence. Just a little bit. Again, for mental health reasons. There's a lot happening. I feel like I'm not gonna get it all. Because she has a different mask. Okay, we have some different fashion stuff too. We have, I don't know, the more like modern stuff. We have the dress here with the sword, which I'm thinking deja vu, because last time we saw swords before. We have some sword imagery like the sharp blade in this as well. And I know that deja vu is supposed to be its own thing. There's some images that I'm pulling from both, like the flowers, the lace, the pillars, the older architecture. And I don't know if that's just because of the aesthetic of the current era, deja vu being right before this, that they're just pulling that influence forward because they're changing up their aesthetic and sound going forward. Also, this outfit with Dami also feels a little bit more vintage, and we have the black and white, so it's almost as if we're being at different points in time, because we have wormholes. I'm thinking different places, different dimensions, that sort of thing, but it could also be like different points in the same timeline. If we're doing time travel and stuff, different timeline stuff, I'm gonna need to get a notebook, because I've already done that with storylines, and it makes my brain hurt. Ooh, love that moment. The like chest isolation. The black outfits though. Oh, we have a gem of some kind. Interesting that we have the shattering of the gem, but we in the same place we had the smoke. Who was it that was running away from the smoke? Was it Jiu? And then it engulfed them, and at the same point of the scream, almost like a breaking point, dissolving into it. We have a bunch of writing on the walls. What's that about? Is it we had it before behind? I think it was Jiu, where it was all there was some writing behind her. We have a tree in the stained glass as well. Is it almost like knowledge, like the writing? I don't know what it says, but could it be like the power of knowledge or the danger of knowledge? Because people who understand and know are powerful. That's usually how people who are like afraid of losing their power oppress others, is hiding knowledge or warping it. I don't know. Because we had Gahan in the black and white, which also makes me think of, we had the black and white wormhole, so maybe she's connected to that, and it's led her here, whereas like the magenta one was with Xian and Jiu, and then like the black and white one is Gahan and Dami, maybe? I don't know. Because it seems like Jiu reacted to the gem breaking. Ooh, I love that choreo. Look how pretty. Mask left behind. The backup dancer's doing a great job of this also. Okay, I'm gonna need Dami to calm herself. Okay. Second, we have them all in the hoods again. Is that connected to the hooded figure we saw before in contrast to the person in white? It also looks like, I don't know if this is just like the different hangings that they had, or if it's related to a specific person. Like it feels like this should be like a space where a person is walking, and maybe that's again because Handong isn't here, or is that symbolic because we had the person in white that disappeared? We also have the mask being left behind. Oh, we had the meteor shower. I was like, there's something else. We had the meteor shower that's happening with the scene with Yuhyun. Again, it almost feels like at different points in the timeline, and that might become more clear as I go through the different MVs and it lines up a bit more. I also feel like, did we have a gem of some kind in Bon Voyage? Because there's a scene where, isn't it Gahyun where she's reflected? We have the reflection here on the floor as well, but there's the reflection, but it isn't Gahyun that's in the reflection, but she's standing and then the reflection is someone else. I know I'm like pulling ahead. I'm just like, maybe that's important because I remember seeing it later. We also have all the pillars pointing outwards, which is interesting because if it had fallen naturally, it would have fallen from like wherever the point of impact was, which if they're all falling outwards implies that the impact was at the center of this specific point. We had the meteor shower. I don't know. There's so much happening. Because these pillars are broken. I need Dami's eyes to be less gorgeous. Ooh. The hairography. I'm definitely gonna have to check out a dance practice. Ooh, that dance move though. All right, it's to be continued. Okay, the choreo though, I'm gonna have to check out a dance practice because I was expecting with the instrumentation and like the drop there that it would be something like really high energy, but there's something about it being these slow, controlled, intentional movements that has such a power to it, especially since they have more dancers with them, that it just creates this whole force with their performance. So many ideas for this. It does feel like they're at different, I don't know, different points in time between the outfits and the, I don't know, stuff around them. Some of them are in places that are more in ruins. Some of them, especially with Dio, it almost feels like she's in some kind of future point because there's something digital about her backdrop that it does feel like she's at some future point, as opposed to Sua, who feels like she's farther in the past. Some of them almost feel liminal. Even with Xiam, where she was like, it seemed like she was in the same place that Jio and Yuhyun were at the beginning, but it had all of the fog that was there. Same place, different time. I don't know. I have lots of thoughts, and I know that I was going to get to the end of this and have mostly questions and thoughts, and y'all need to answer my questions. This is just me voicing it out, because then I have a record to say, one, to keep track of all my ideas, because sometimes I don't remember. And going back through this when I have to edit it, it'll be cemented in my brain that I had those thoughts. And then also so I can be like, I talked about that in previous video, and I'll be able to be like, I already thought about that. Wow. I don't know how to feel. I feel like my brain is overloaded with everything that has just happened. So I just saw in like the recommended videos, like around the MV, that there is a like performance dance video and there's a dance practice and probably also some live performances. So noted, because I want to see this choreo. My head it's full. There's a lot going on in my noggin right now with all of this, partly because the song, I spent so much time just talking about the song and the different images and topics within it. My voice hurts. And then the MV, obviously seeing that as more of a separate thing because they're doing storyline stuff, and I don't know how much of that intertwines with the intentionality of the song, but I have lots of theories. I hope that I voiced most of them. I think I did. There's also, I feel, something to do with the coloring, not just because we have the grayscale and then the more high saturation parts, but it also felt like we had specific colors related to specific people. We had this magenta, we had the grayscale, we had blues with Yuhyun there at the end, so maybe color association in there somehow as well. I don't know. My brain is, there's too much. I hope that makes sense, is that I have too many ideas that I don't know what to put first and how to string them all together. But loved the song. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I miss Handong so much. But also a great song, great MV. I'm super excited to get into this storyline, and I know that this MV is more of like a teaser of that. Like, I'm supposed to have more questions. I feel like even having this idea that there might be like different timelines or different points in time that we may reference that again. Like, I remember getting into Chase Me, where there were so many different elements happening in that going back and watching the MV after I've seen the other nightmare stories, I'm like, oh, that was a reference to this, and we brought this forward. And I remember doing my last couple of videos, and I just did so much. This was like, here are all of the things that I think that they're referencing. I had to do so much editing because I was just pulling different clips and images from previous MVs to be like, that's part that I'm thinking of, to just be like a reference, because there was just so much going on with that storyline, and that was like the beginning, right? So I feel like going into a new storyline, they have some experience in it, some more ideas of pulling from the stuff that they did with the first one and helping that kind of color how they're going to do this one. I think also just they have more of a fan base and more of a backing, definitely some more budget going forward, that they can do more things with this story. And I feel like maybe be like a little bit braver with it, because it's not them trying to re-debut and get people's attention for what they're doing, right? I feel like this storyline is going to offer them a bit more creative room because there's not going to be that added pressure as much. I don't know. I'm excited though. My voice hurts because I've been recording for so long. This is one song. Got a little bit carried away, but I feel like it was warranted. I feel like I didn't even fully explore all the things that I wanted to do. Definitely leave me your thoughts down in the comments, obviously with no spoilers for storyline stuff, because I want to figure it out on my own. Thoughts on getting into this storyline when it first came out, different images and things. I don't know, just I need to talk about it, obviously, because I need help organizing my thoughts into something linear. But I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. It's been a long video. If you stuck through it the whole time, let me know again of anything you want to see with Handong, because I do miss her and I want to continue to do stuff that has her in it. So let me know any of your suggestions for what we should do for that. I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click Let's Plays to go see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you miss next time I post a Dreamcatcher reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.